fact that you are not sitting in the office and drinking coffee and having your team kind of handle all the problems. You actually jump into the trenches and you're there. Give yourself this kind of a tap on the shoulder. It's not only that you made the right thing, it's like you were there at a point in time as a business owner. And that's a major thing.
Today on the podcast, we had Ami Harari on from LA Build Corp, and we had a great conversation. I love Ami's background and really the organization, but what really comes out in the interview is just his passion and really his work ethic. And you can see it through his company as well as the homes that he builds. Without further ado, here's the LA Build Company. Welcome to Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, I'm joined from the West Coast, from Southern California. I've got Ami Harari from LA Build Corp. Welcome, Ami.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, we met just 7-8 months ago at the International Builder Show. I think I was wandering around the Cambria booth talking to them, and Eric Tendler, who we had on the podcast, maybe a year ago. Hey, you got to meet Ami. And as I was doing some research on you, you are very close ties to Cambria in general, but more than that, you guys are both from Israel and you're both in the military. I was curious, were you guys in the military together at all?
No, Eric is a little older than me.
Okay.
So there is an age difference between us, but like everyone in Israel, we had to go and serve, and we wanted to go and serve. And then kind of Israelis always get together and kind of find common ground wherever you're gonna throw them. I mean, we're just gonna find friendship. So no, we met here. We met through riding dirt bikes. We didn't even we our introduction to each other was racing each other in Southern California, dirt runs. So that's how we met.
Was it like open track? You guys were open dirt bike racing, or was it just more of a?
We were kind of more of when we did it over here, it was in older age, so it wasn't like the early 20s. But no, we were mostly riding for fun rather than like a true competition. We're too old for it.
That's funny. I have a buddy of mine who is from Minnesota, actually from Wisconsin, but he's lived in LA now for over a decade. And is it Deus Ex Machina? I mispronounce it, but it's like custom motorcycles, and he does all their photography. And I'm constantly seeing these really cool retro dirt bikes as they're racing around LA. And I'm like, where are they going? How far out of the city do you have to go to basically do these races?
Well, about an hour. I mean, Usually, we load it on a truck and then we go. And then it's more of like kind of after a really tough week, pushing as much as you can push. Usually either Saturday or Sunday, we go and relax, a little bit of nature, a little bit of speed, a little bit of a different type of an adventure. So.
Okay. Excellent. Well, let's focus on the entrepreneurship side, back to building. We could talk about dirt biking because I don't know that much about it. We could talk about that forever. But how long have you I guess I'd be curious to know when we met in LA, at IBS, I was mainly just interested, I loved your presence, kind of your energy. We talked a little bit about building, but I didn't dive into it deep. I think that's probably what I like about the podcast the most is I get to meet my fellow builders around the country and kind of hear their story. What made you start a construction company and why LA? Because it seems like LA would not be the easiest place to build high-end custom homes, just given all the regulation. We had an architect on, is it Marco Santos? I don't know if you've ever worked with him at all before, but just kind of he was walking us through the complexities of building, in LA County, and just, the permit process is always just so crazy to us on the Midwest. It takes us, 4 or 5 weeks to get a permit, and you're multi-years to get permits, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, I don't know any better. So I started my construction career in LA. So as far as what I'm concerned, waiting for a permit 6 months, it's a blessing. I mean, it's great. It can take longer. But by the way, it really depends where. So when you're close to the coast, you have coastal commission and you have other regulations. So it's a little bit more complicated. And you have all those small cities in Los Angeles area, which is like, the beach cities and Beverly Hills, and each city have their own regulations. But usually, I mean, you grow into it and you understand what needs to be done. And yeah, we don't even know what is it, 4 or 5 weeks getting a permit. So it was never an issue. And for me, I actually started my way in Chicago. So when I came to the US, I was in Chicago, and obviously, coming from Israel, and it wasn't my type of weather. So eventually I moved down here, and then I think that I would say that one of the driving forces in finding your profession is your environment, is your friends and the people that you meet. So unless you're really educated and you went to either law school or you're a doctor or something, then your path is pretty much carved for you already. But in this particular case, I mean, half of the Israelis in Los Angeles are in some way in the construction industry, whether if it's like, Eric that is in Cambria, so it's stone supply, but it's still kind of a, part of the industry. And, all of a sudden you find yourself building houses in a way. So it wasn't something that at the beginning I was planning on.
What was your background? So you immigrated here probably in what, your mid-20s, or how old
Yeah,
were you when you came to Chicago?
yeah.
Mid-20s?
Yeah,
Yep.
mid-20s. And then I started at the beginning, I worked as a mover, obviously, you kind of trying to find your way in. And then I was a truck driver for several years. So I did like, I don't know, 500,000 miles in the US. I've been everywhere. I loved it. Yeah, I drove like, I started in Chicago and then I moved to LA, but, I kind of like put your finger on the map, I was probably there. And then at a certain point, I got back to Los Angeles to kind of settle down after a few years of driving. And it was kind of funny because I was really bad at the moving industry. I couldn't really, everything I touched, I mean, I had several trucks. One got into an accident with the driver, and one, the engine just blew up, and it was up in Wyoming. And according to the fire department report, it was like 20 minutes because the wind was really strong. So in 20 minutes, everything was gone. And I'm like, this is a sign from God. Something doesn't really work here. And then I kind of started to look at what else can I do? So back then, you're talking about kind of early to mid 2000. Most of the Israelis that I knew and most of my friends here in LA were either in construction or in the moving industry. So, and I figured it's not the right industry for me, was the moving. Too many moving parts, too far away, very stressful operation as well. You move people's goods and kind of from here to New York, and there's always something on the way, and you're always late, and there's always something, and it wasn't my type of environment.
Yeah, because construction is so linear. There's no problems in construction.
No, but construction, the leverage on or the way to kind of put off the fires is it's close to you. So if there is a problem right now, so if I get a call right now, I don't know, this is LA, so I'm going to hit the traffic. I'm an hour away, an hour and a half away from going there and actually fixing the problem. Whether when you're in the like transportation and moving, I mean, I have a problem in New York. What I'm going to do? I'm going to take a flight. By the time I'll get there, it's probably gone, and I'm not going to be able to take care of it. So it's different dynamics. Probably didn't really work that well with my personality. So at a certain point, I kind of was starting transitioning to the industry, and I went and started working in a company they were managing projects. And the issue with this is, I think that the company that I kind of introduced to when I started my career there, they were not really that good with managing projects. So they were doing a lousy job, and most of the sales guys were like really frustrated. So a good friend of mine was actually living in California, and he had a small construction company, and he had like few employees that were really great. So I figured, you know what, it might be a good idea to kind of take over these employees and then to manage the jobs and then to manage the crew. And I didn't know enough about construction. So at a certain point, I started doing that. And all of a sudden, all the sales guys were like coming to me and like, hey, can you take care of my jobs? Because you're the only one in the company that can actually deliver. So I did this for a little while, and then I went and started to work with a family friend more into, and I was really, by the way, when I was doing it, I really felt connected to the rough work, the foundation and the framing, and I felt really good with me giving instructions and getting down into the trenches and working with the guys and learning the business. But I felt like I didn't have the right knowledge yet, and I need a little bit more. So I started to work with a family friend that was really kind of took me under his wing in a way. And he was, a pretty big contractor that was doing mostly foundation framing, but he was a general contractor. So I started working with him and, kind of learned the business. And what I saw is that, since I left the Israeli military, which I was a sergeant in the military, I didn't really test my leadership skills. So, I kind of did things that didn't really require it. I feel like also you're starting kind of down the ladder and you're kind of climbing up. So it takes a little while to really get to a point that you can test how good you are when it comes to leadership. And all of a sudden, I was really able to kind of push and see results. And at a certain point, he took me to it was kind of a fun conversation, and he took me and he said, "Ami, listen, you're pretty much extended your duties with me. You need to open. That's it. You're ready for. He was saying you're ready for the NFL. So just go out there and you need to open, your company, and everything else is history."
How did when you first started, did you have a client? Did you do a spec home? Did you do a remodel? What were those first couple of years like? I mean, you obviously were not afraid of taking risks or trying new things. What did those first couple of years look like?
Okay, it was really tough. And one of the reasons why it was tough, because eventually my timing was not that great. I opened the company in 2006. And then I did some advertising and I went out there and, I did additions and I kind of contacted other companies that needed rough work and even finish. And I have a concrete license because that was my specialty. It was foundation and framing. So, I did all of a sudden, the rumors spread really fast, especially in LA. It's a huge city, it's a huge town, but everyone knows each other, especially in the industry. Usually when I bid a job, even today, I'll get a call from my subs and this guy and this guy is also bidding it. And we all know who's our competition. So so in a way, I started to kind of get leads and then go and meet clients and do the work, and subcontractors that I work with and people that I know were really supportive. I feel that one of the things, in LA and generally in America, once you are around this ecosystem of the industry and you're kind of people are really doing everything they can to help you and that you will succeed. So it was, I got an amazing support from everyone that I worked with. By the way, it's still the same thing. Still, once you know the type of jobs and type of clients that you want to work with, and you're really trying your best to do the best job you can and be honest and kind of be a good leader and follow when you need, people will kind of spread the word. And so, I mean, kind of going 2 years towards 2008 and 2009, we had the big recession. And that's when it started to become tough. So I was able to do a very big project that was taking me from 2008 all the way to the end of 2009. And that was a really big project that I did with my own crew. I had like 15 guys back then, and we were actually building the house from the foundation, like the whole thing. So we subbed a few things out, like, air conditioning and plumbing and all those specialties. But that actually it was a good project up until 2009.
Do you
Um,
remember those early years? I mean, or not early years. Well, they're early years for you, but now it's 20 years ago. 19 years ago is crazy. But how do you remember some of those coming out of that recession? So many businesses went out of business and you were a young company. I was the same age. I started at 25 or 2005, I'm sorry, when I started my company. And I kind of reflected that maybe it was an advantage being a small company from the standpoint that I didn't have a lot. So I also didn't have a lot to lose. And
yeah,
that was only in retrospect. I remember for me there's like
100%.
like 4 or 5 years were like, it was a struggle. I won't go about it now. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago. I had no money. I was so poor. I was renting out my own bed in my own home to some college kids just to make a couple more bucks, because it was like I had finished a spec home right at the finish of 2008. And it's like you do anything and everything you possibly can to just make it one more day, one more week, one more mortgage payment. I was doing a spec home, and I learned so many lessons about being scrappy and just kind of, getting rid of fear, like fear of failure. Do you remember kind of what that was like? And how often do you think about it now? You build these amazing homes now. And obviously, we all know that business is a lot harder than it looks. And yes, we all build, beautiful homes, and while, yes, there's a glamour in it, we love it. Business is really hard.
Hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's only our own detriment if we ever forget how hard it is, because it's only a matter of time before we all go through. I mean, this industry is so up and down. I guess, how often do you reflect on those 4 or 5 years, even now, as we see kind of, at least in the Midwest, we see definitely a softening in the market over the last year and a half. I don't know what you're experiencing in LA. I guess, how often do you use the lessons that you learned again, even now?
Every day and every minute. I think
Yeah.
that it becomes part of you. So I mean, again, everyone has its own kind of traits in personality that can overcome the really hard times. And I remember, and I still say it every time I kind of speak and I talk to young guys that just open their companies and say, hey, the hardest thing, when you're opening a company is sleeping at night. If you pass that, just be as relentless as you can. Go out there, put 110%. 100% is not enough. You got to put 110%, and eventually, I mean, just also try to do it in kind of a smart way. Like, don't bang your head against the wall. If something doesn't really work, then try to analyze why not. But I feel that you know those years were like, I don't know. I don't think that I ever, and most of my friends that have businesses, you can't learn from success. Okay, you learn from failure, and it's actually even more complicated than that. It's like you learn from more failures than you can really take on, and that will make you so resilient that at a certain point you're going to face those challenges when the business grows and you have those different challenges. Then you will say, okay, been there, done that. Okay, let's look at it in a kind of a different perspective, and what do I need to do in order to kind of handle it differently, and do I need to take a hit? Do I need to fight for, like, push and push and push, or do I need to kind of lay back and let things settle and then kind of jump in? So you have all these type of different lessons all the time that I think that those, I would say, 3 to 4 years from 2009 to 2013 almost, probably the hardest in my life. I mean, I had 2 kids. I was in tremendous debt. Couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody knew. Like right now, looking at it, so we didn't know when we're going to come out of this recession. Nobody knew. We thought that it's going to last forever, and it was tough. But I think that at a certain point, you're kind of putting yourself on an autopilot, and you're saying, I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to go and do what I can. I'll try to learn every day to do it better and better. I think that one of the great lessons that I learned also was just go out there and meet as many people as you can. Go and try and be close to successful people and try to get this energy and vibe from them, and just, there is no other way. And there's no way back. So that's the way that I felt, and this is what I did. But I'm using it every day, all day. It becomes part of it. It became part of me.
We're doing a series right now on Thursdays called Losers or Winners. And that's the whole premise, is I don't want to hear anyone's success stories. I don't want to hear how you nailed it. I want all the failures, because just like what you just said, we learn so much more by losing, and we learn so much more through the struggle. For those that have been listening to the Curious Builder podcast, you know how much I love the Contractor Coalition Summit. It's been the single biggest force multiplier in my business over 21 years. We're excited to announce again that we're coming back to Chicago, November 7th through the 10th. All the details can be found at thecontractorcoalitionsummit.com. And under the promo code for a $2,500 discount, type in Curious Builder. We'll see you in Chicago. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. My kids are fairly young. I was just thinking about, as a dad, like, you try to teach your kids stuff, but you're like, at the same time, they sort of have to learn some of it. So it's like, I don't know, I struggle with it. They're 9, 7, and 5. And it's like, how much do you let them sort of fall down and skin their knees, if you will, because that's how you learn versus like coaching. And I don't know, any parent really knows the answer. I think you just sort of do the best you can through it. But I think business is a lot like that too. Even like when you hire new people, I've made the mistake sometimes of, giving too long of a leash to some of my employees because, hey, they were young. I knew they had to grow, kind of let them make mistakes. But, if they're not learning the mistakes, Nick Schiffer has been, has mentioned this many times from Modern Craftsman, that basically if you can hire somebody that can do your job to 60% of your ability, hire them. Now they can't stay at 60%. They have to get better. And so I think the goal is like, if you hire for temperament, if you hire for culture, if you see kind of the hunger in the eye, they're going to keep coming up. I just framed the question in this way, like, so you have a pretty big team now. I think I was counting what you have, like 9 or 10 people now. Is that
14.
14. So how, as you hire people, what are traits that you look for? Because I feel like you have done really, especially on your website, you've done such a great job of really shaping and getting really clear on expectations for your clients. I think actually the thing that stood out the most is really your leadership. And, obviously when I found out you're in the military, it seemed to make a lot of sense. A lot of your wording and a lot of the way you structured things, it was very clear. Like, hey, if you build in our process, here's our 3 steps. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And you're basically taking a very complex process and trying to make it as simple as possible. And we know it's not simple, but you can make it simple for the client, for what they need to understand, what they need to do. And if they feel like they can trust you, that's really that's all any business owner can do, is say, do you trust me? Yes or no? And if you do, then let us help you along this journey. Anyway, I'm just curious, how have you sort of hired people that sort of fit into that vision? And what are some examples of hires that didn't work out? And did you let them go in a quick enough time? Or were you like me, where you let them stay on the tree a little too long? And, then it can affect the culture of the company too.
Well, first of all, to begin with, I think that as business owners, okay, I mean, we get knowledge about our craft every day and every day. And I always say my best project is my next project. I always learn something. However, if there is something that I can really say that I become really, really good at, and I'm still getting better and better, is with hiring people. At the beginning, the business have its own identity, and you have your identity. And at a certain point, you combine them. And for me, it took, I would say, probably like around 10 years to really understand how my identity and what I feel is important, how I can transfer it to the business and kind of spearhead the leadership on it, but in synergy. And I think it takes a little while to come up with it. However, I mean, it starts with you. One of the sentences that I keep reminding myself all the time is that, what, obviously, you lead by example. Okay. The second thing is that I'm going to outwork each and every one of my employees by a huge margin. If there is a problem and they get to a point that, what, it's hard to fix it, bring it. I'll always back them up. I'll always make sure that they understand that whatever happens, I'm here to support them. and to kind of work with them on solving issues, whether if it's with subcontractors or clients or suppliers, or just you woke up in the morning if you have a bad day and you can't really do your job, so just say give me a call, I'll come over. Let's do it together. So in a way, the leadership is like, you're the leader in the front, but you really want to make sure that your team is standing not behind you, right next to you, and they feel that that you help them push things, in a way that they won't feel alone. It's very, very important. One of the things that I feel today that I'm doing is when I'm hiring new people, before I hire them, I send them over to one of the job sites to meet the supervisors and to talk to them when I'm not there. So I thought, okay, here's an address. Go. I call the supervisors or superintendents or project managers, whoever is on the job site, and tell, hey, I'm sending someone over. Do a walkthrough with him, talk to them. And this is obviously after I did the interview and I kind of vet them on their either experience or personality, which in my opinion, by the way, personality is way more important than experience. I can teach you almost everything that I know, but if you're not coachable, I'm just wasting my time. So, I mean, if you have the personality, then and you have the leadership skills in you, you're going to learn the craft and you're going to learn the business very fast. If you don't have the leadership, mm, this is not the industry for you. So I feel that at a certain point, after as we said, you went all those ups and downs and you went all these sleepless nights with this cold sweat that you wake up in the middle of the night. And I think even today, I can probably draw the ceiling above my bed in my older house at night, exactly how it looks, just from the, those sleepless nights that you're stuck to a corner and you don't know what you're going to do. And eventually you come up with those, solutions. And every time you come up with a solution, it makes it better and better, and you become stronger and more resilient. So I think that today, the way that I see it is, I feel like when I'm having an interview, I get it so much better than I used to get it when I was younger. I can pretty much read the person in front of me much better, and I know that he's my type of, team member or not. And the same thing I can say to a client. I mean, this is also something that is really important. Sometimes you go and you meet a client and you're saying, you know what, it's just not going to work. I mean, there's not going to be any synergy. So sometimes it's better to say, you know what, you probably need someone better than me that can really treat this project in a different way. I think that my culture is not gonna, I won't be able to accommodate you the way that I want to, and you have to say no. But with, what you mentioned before, that you're keeping employees for longer than what you should. I think that it was a book that I read by, I think, Tony Robbins, that said, when is the right time to fire an employee? Unfortunately, the first time you thought about it. So, so
That's
I
funny
mean,
that
and I know we're not doing it. So, by the way, I will fight for each and every one of my employees. I will do whatever I can, to make them better. However, sometimes I just, don't have the ability to do it, and we have to let it go. And it's always a
I,
hard thing to do.
I've sort of changed my approach the last year and a half, and we've had really amazing employees, and a couple of them were just, poor fits. And I think what dawned on me is what makes me a good remodeler, being an optimist or good at sales, makes me sometimes not a poor judge of character, but basically like I'm an optimist. I think they can change. I think they can get better. And so like, I mean, I think that's obviously I'd rather go through life and business that way anyway. But I've sort of told my team that my team we made a hire maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and it's been an amazing hire. But my team is the one that identified it, brought it in, interviewed, and it's like my team all wanted it, so of course I'm going to say yes. And so my goal for the next 20 years or however long I end up building for is my goal is to never hire another person and have my team and let my culture sort of hire it. And then my ultimate fail safe is if it doesn't work out, I'm like, guys, this isn't on me. You guys hired them. If you don't like them, it's up to you.
You know what? It's so right. I think that most of my last hires were vetted by my team, whether if it's an office or field guy. I always send them, hey guys, what do you think? And I think that I get so much of this really inside, because when you're not there and someone is kind of doing a walkthrough with the superintendent, And it's less threatening in a way. It's less stressful of a situation, and they ask different questions than what they will ask what they asked when they were with me on an interview, and it's less formal. And then you really get the inside information. But I also feel that, for us as business owners, the best environment is like when I really want my team to be better than me. When I go and we're doing a walkthrough and I'm getting into some type of a discussion with my supervisors, and I'm wrong and they're right. I'm in heaven. I mean, I always, always, always want to be wrong when it comes to my team members. I mean, when they know the business better than me, I mean, I can accept more than that. I mean, it's the best that you can get.
Hmm. You mentioned something earlier, and I've seen it before in an article that someone wrote about you. Was you openly say that my best project is my next project. Why do you believe that?
Every project you learn how to treat your clients better. You learn how to manage the job better. You learn how to manage your team better. With this really great design professionals that we're working, with here in LA, you get so much, new, and like the newest things that are coming. This is LA. It comes here. So you learn so many, like every project, I learn so much. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. And every time I come and I open a new project, I have so much more knowledge, and I'm kind of ready to test the next project, and to see how much more knowledge I get from that. I'm very field oriented guy. I'm not an office guy. I have really dirty shoes right now. Luckily, you guys can see it. And I just came from the side before we started it. So it's 11 here. I started really kind of early. I came here exactly 10 minutes before the podcast, and I was already at several job sites. So in a way, just to go out there and to see superintendents that are doing so much better than what they did before, and having this different conversation, because the conversations we had, before the previous project, we're not having them. They already own it, and it's you see it every day, and I love it.
You said I agree with your statement, by the way, 100%. I look back at, I mean, honestly, even life. You look back at when you were a younger builder or a younger business owner, and regardless if you're doing well or if it was difficult, you just think of how much those years taught you. And to your point of, I mean, every project. We just had a project recently that we operationally did something. It wasn't wrong, but the way we did it with the client is it exposed sort of a operational loophole, and it caused kind of a billing issue. And the client, had a lot of, they didn't agree. We basically, at the end of the day, I had to make a marketing decision as to how I justified it to myself. And so, we've all had to spend money on marketing. In this case, I wanted to keep the client really happy. And I had to, it's sometimes hard as a business owner because there's what's right and wrong, but sometimes, or black and white, but a lot of times you and I have to make a decision that you might be right. It's like, actually, it's like arguing with your wife. You might be right, but you're still going to lose. So like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And like in this particular situation, I was like, you know what? I think it's better off if I take this on the chin. I learned something operationally that we won't do again. And two, that client is going to appreciate the way we handled it and tell their friends about it. Now, could I have held my ground and maybe made, 5, 10,000 more? Well, sure. But honestly, a good reputation is worth way more than that. But it's not always easy. I mean, even though, like, if you tell me that story, I would applaud you and say, Ami, yeah, you did the right thing. But every time we're conscientious of our clients' dollars too. I mean, $5, $10,000, it's a lot of money to me. And you remember those times when, man, $500 was a lot. And you see how everything has just exploded in cost. I had a client come in today and we were talking about pricing, and they're like, I just can't wrap my head around what things cost. And I said, don't feel bad. I said, I do this every day and I have a hard time grappling with the costs. And it's, I don't know the way through it other than you just kind of, it just kind of have to find acceptance in it. But anyway, I guess my point, we're going back to the earlier part about your next project being your best project, is just simply how much we do learn on each one. And if we're not, we probably don't have our eyes open enough.
No, and I think that this is really important because you really gotta be sensitive and open to the fact that you don't know enough. This is the construction industry, and you'll never know enough. And many times in staff meetings that I have, we have here in the office with the superintendents and in some of our team members, I tell them, guys, the only reason why I'm sitting in front of you and lecturing you about things that if you take all the mistakes that you guys made together combined, and it's probably not even half of what I did. This is the reason why I'm here and you're there, is that I made so many mistakes. I learned from them. And you know what? You have to take a lot of hits on the chins. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. And I mean, every project, there is this opportunity to do it. So, you kind of mentioned it, and I have numerous examples, but what happened is that when you take it on the chin and you kind of in a way lose money, two things happen. First of all, your client really understands and comes to realize that he can trust you, that you're going to take a loss in order to be true and make sure that the project will be done the way it was meant to be, and you're not just going to take a shortcut because it's going to cost you less money. But I think more importantly, your team will see it. And your team will say, you know what, we made a mistake on ordering this window that is $12,000. I'm giving you an example. And the owner was actually, in my case, was able to, he was nice enough to say, you know what, I'm going to put a transom on top and it's going to look at it. I said, okay, no problem. And then I went and I ordered, a new window. And he called me and he said, Ami, did you order the transom? And I said, no. And he said, okay, well, I want you to order it. And I just want to make sure that I'm not willing to pay for it. And I said, no, I didn't order the transom. I ordered a whole new door. And there was like, quiet, it was quiet on the other side. It's like, Ami, but it's like $12,000 door. I said, I know, my mistake, my problem. I mean, it is what it is. I have to take care of it. It will never look the same. A year after, you're going to move to the house, you're going to look at it, and you pretty much hate me until to the rest of your life. So I'm just not going to do that. And we bought it, and the rumors spread all over. I mean, everyone knew what we did, and it's So my team saw how dedicated I am to the client, to the project. The client was like, "Wow, he was ready to throw like $12,000 in. I guess I can trust him more than what I thought." And I think that at the end it creates this ripple effect that is one of the blocks that you build your business with. I mean, it shows your integrity, it teaches your team, it teaches your clients. I mean, sometimes I wait for these opportunities, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was very well said. It's funny, I was smiling because you nailed it. So this just happened yesterday to me, and we're with the client and we were doing our closeout. We had our PM, we had the architect. The architect had left for this part of the conversation because the homeowner didn't want him there for this part of it because I think they were coming in with their gloves up a little bit. And my office manager, when we're all done, when I told them that, I saw how much it was costing them emotionally, I said, you know what, we'll take care of it. And you could see her visibly relax, and that was obviously the outcome they were hoping for, but they didn't know if they were going to get it. And but the my office manager basically told the homeowners right in front of me, he said, this is why I came to work for Mark, is because the other builder that I work for would never have done this. And he goes, that's why I like working on these homes and I like working with this team. And it was I didn't do it for that reason, obviously, but to your point, the actions that we have a ripple effect, not only on the client and on their friends and their family and all the people they tell, but our team. You're right. I often don't think of the impact that that has on the culture of your own team. And so you nailed it perfectly.
Oh,
And
but
it literally
one
just
very
happened to me
crucial
yesterday.
point. There is one very crucial point which you really gotta give yourself and understand what happened is that first of all, it started at the point that you were there at that meeting,
Mhm.
which is already something that as a business owner and you have so many things that you need to do, but you were able to be there on that meeting. And the second thing is that your sensitivity, you were very sensitive and you understood what the situation, and you took this action. And this is our job. and the fact that you are not sitting in the office and drinking coffee and having your team kind of handle all the problems. You actually jumped into the trenches and you were there and you were making sure that whatever the problem was, you're going to fix it. And this is something that every time that I get out of these type of meetings, I feel that, you know what, I did my job. I lost money, I did lose money. It doesn't really matter. At the end, I listened to my clients. I was sensitive enough. I had the right timing because I'm going to the job site and I'm listening to my clients. I'm listening to my team. I'm listening to my subcontractors, and I'm trying to do the best I can for the project. And then you were there making this decision. You have to give yourself this kind of a tap on the shoulder, like, you were, it's not only that you made the right thing, it's like you were there at a point in time as a business owner. And that's a major thing.
And I think as we all, all business owners get a sense of a feeling. It's the intangible, it's the unknown. Like you can kind of understand the temperament both in the sales cycle, the build cycle, and the close cycle. Like if a client kind of doesn't stops communicating, like something's up. Like if they break their normal pattern of whatever that is, calling or emailing or texting or whatever they communicate, you kind of get a sense emotionally of where they're at, and you read body language. I always try to meet in person, because emails, it's like your grandma's yelling at you, like, stop yelling. It's like, why? I don't know. My grandma doesn't yell at me, so I don't know why I use that as an example, but it's like big text. It's like, it's so black and white. You don't get to read the body language. And, you're right. I actually went into that meeting thinking that I was going to hold my ground. And I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like I had already given them a concession verbally what I was going to do, but they wanted more. But I could just see it, how much it cost them. And like, you can see the body language. You can't see that in an email. You can't see it. You can hear it sometimes in a phone call, but man, when you are in person, what I always think that if your client will agree, especially in a difficult situation, even a legal situation, if you could, all things, if you can just, because I think if you can identify as people to people, I'm not a business owner, you're not a homeowner, but we're just two human beings. If you can get down to the emotional level and they're still willing to work with you, I know there's a path forward. And it is easier when you like them. I told my clients, I said, I like you. I like your family. I like the
Yeah,
way you treat you. It's way easier for me to do this for you because of how you've treated my people. And I said, they love my PM Mike. They're like, we love Mike. He's amazing. I said, honestly, I'm letting you know that that matters to me. I said, maybe as a business
yeah,
owner, this doesn't matter, but it matters to me. And the reason I'm doing this is because of how, you're kind and how you treat my people. Where like you and I've been in situations where, it's kind of like going, I just speak in dad analogies all the time because I'm in like a dad world. But it's like, if someone picks on Ami, you can handle it. But if someone picks on one of your kids or one of your employees, like you will fight for your employees. Like if someone came after one of my people and was like aggressive, like I would not tolerate that. This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. Don't you think most business owners would react that way?
Oh, 100%. But it really also depends on the personality. And I feel like sometimes we're, as general contractors, sometimes we're right there in the middle, trying to, in a way, protect the client from a greedy sub, or sometimes to protect the sub from a greedy client. Okay. And you're kind of right there in the middle, and you really need to steer this ship like like this really, really narrow, I would call it this optimal waters that you really need to make sure that everyone understands. But it comes, in my opinion, with the leadership. When you are starting a meeting and you have your agenda and you have your personality, and you go in and you listen. You don't talk. I mean, you got to listen more than usually than what you talk, especially in those meetings. And then as you said, you hear the body language. And look, we have this amazing portfolio of houses that we build in LA. Really beautiful. We always exceeded, what the task that was given to us. But what really, really makes me proud is if I'm gonna make a phone call right now to 95% of my clients and hey, you remember this really expensive meal coffee machine that I installed in your kitchen? Turn it on. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm coming for coffee, and I know that on the other line, say, hey, I haven't seen you in a long. Yeah, come on, I want to see you. And this is, I mean, houses. Yes, I love it. I love construction. I don't see myself now doing like anything else. I mean, this is pretty much my duty in life, to build houses and to do it with my team and to expand my team and always to get better projects. But if I'm really proud of, things that I achieved is the relationship with my clients. I have a client right now that I'm building her fifth home.
Whoa.
So yeah, I mean, and it's just every time I think about it, and I'm like, you know what, this is the greatest achievement. And I will have clients that will call me 3, 4, and 5 years later. Hey, there's something here and there. I don't have a warranty on the house. They will call me. I'll send someone. I'll fix it. Hey, I'll stop by for coffee. We'll talk about it. And many times I won't even charge him. I kind of feel that there is this really, I don't know, kind of a like white glove type of treatment that you give your clients, and that's why they refer us to their friends and families. And every time I list my client as references, I mean, whoever looked for references call me back and say, your clients are raving fans of yours. I mean, how
Yeah.
did you get to that? I mean, this is amazing. And it makes you feel so good that you're saying, I'm probably doing it right. I just need to do it better. But this is the direction that I'm taking the company. It's like the clients are there for us for life. We're going to keep them close to us. We're going to do whatever. If one of my clients will call someone else to repair something, I will see it as a failure.
You know what's funny about referrals? I don't know if you've experienced this before. I can't remember the last time anyone I work with asked for a referral. And when they do, I sort of joke like, if you don't want to build with me, you really shouldn't talk to my past clients because they are like raving fans. And it is also sort of funny because it's like you're not gonna give somebody your, like you said, 95%. So you're not gonna give them the 5%. You're gonna give them 95, which is obviously the lion's share of them. But I wonder if people have gotten that hint because do people ask for referrals? I can't remember the last time a client has ever asked me for a referral. Or if I give it, have they ever actually called them? Or do you think that's cultural? Do you think like cultural to Minneapolis, like that maybe just doesn't happen here, but does it happen like in LA? Do they actually talk to your past clients?
I had a few right now that called, and I got a call right after that from a client. Say, I spoke with this guy and that, and he sounds really nice, and I had before that clients called me and said, I mean, I just spoke to this guy. I'm not sure if he's your type of client. So it goes both ways in a way.
Yeah,
Sometimes the clients will call you back and will say, I spoke with this guy. I mean, you pay attention to this, and you kind of get an inside information from completely different perspective, and I kind of love it.
that's cool. I
But
like that.
yeah, I mean, look, at the end, I feel that one of the things that I tell my team is like most of the people that we build houses for, it's their biggest investment in life. That we can't really, like, they cannot afford a failure. It's a lot of responsibility. It's going to be, it can go only one way, which is a successful project. And I really feel that in a way, you got to give the other side this kind of opportunity to do all the research they can. I mean, most of my clients will come and see jobs, and will sometimes I will even bring in when we have, I don't know, like the weekly meetings with the owners, and I'll let them talk to the owners. At the end, you want to be as transparent as possible. You want to make sure that, once you've been chosen as a contractor, they kind of clear that they know that you're the one for them. In my opinion, it's really, really important.
No, I like that. I just thought of a funny thing. We were talking about, or I was talking about my team interviewing people. How fun would it be to have your past clients interview your like employees? But really funny would be, what if you picked your 5 best clients and you say, you've chosen, LA Build Corp for your construction company, but before we can accept you as a client, you actually have to go out to dinner with 3 of our past clients and they have to sign off that they're a good fit. I mean, I don't think you would do that, but it just, how funny would it be if you were in such demand that your past clients would have to approve your future clients? It'd just be sort of this funny situation.
Yeah, no, I do believe though is that after you do it for a little while, you pretty much you understand who's your client, and you also understand, also based on the market. Sometimes I'll get calls from developers, and hey, we get you enough of this and that. Would you be and you're going to look at the project, and I would just call back and say, guys, I mean, you don't have room for a general contractor in your project if you want to sell this. So why should we even waste each other's time? You need to do one to, I'll try to give them as much, in a way, inside information, especially beginners that, well, no, we want a general contractor. Yeah, but at the end, when you're looking at what the market gives you right now, you don't have room for it. Try to do it by yourself, and I mean, save the trouble. So sometimes you also understand based on the market and based on the personality is who's your client. But once you found out that he's your client, that's it. You're all in. I mean,
Mhm.
you need to outwork yourself. You need to outwork your team. You got to make sure that this client, when he goes to sleep, he knows that what, I have LA Bean Corp, Ami and his team are taking care of it, and try to kind of in a way ease up the stress that comes with building a house.
Yeah, no, for sure. How, in LA with, the Olympics coming up, with the Palisade fires, give us some local talk. Like, what's going on with the Palisade areas? Do you build in that area? Do you have any clients that you're going to be building in there? Like, what's happening there right now? Because it's been a year since the fires happened. How long ago did that happen?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year. So I think it happened in like January. I know it because the fire started a day after I renewed my homeowner's insurance on my house. And I also live in like this extreme fire zone. So I don't know what will happen this year. It's usually in January. Hopefully the insurance company will renew. But going to, yeah, we're actually starting to projects right now in the Palisades. The ones that were started are what they call like to like. So they have several programs. I mean, they're really trying to help people that are, really trying to kind of get their house back. So this is something that it seems right now, after the dust settled, they're doing a fair job. Again, you're talking about California, you're talking about Los Angeles, you're talking about a big city with a lot of rules and regulations. So I think that we're taking this under consideration. It seems like they've been doing a good job. I mean, they're waiving many of the fees when the houses are closer to the ocean. Then in a way, if you're doing like for like, and you're not really all of a sudden, instead of a 3,000 square feet home, you're putting a 6,000 square feet home. So they're waiving the coastal commission, which can take 2 to 3 years, to get approval by them. So I think that they're doing a lot of these things. And you see, in my opinion, driving through Pacific Palisades, you see, in my opinion, a healthy rebuild. One of the points that we were, as general contractors, we were kind of scared is that everyone would start building at the same time, which will put a lot of stress on the supply chain and the labor market. And it seems that the market can actually sustain without getting too crazy. So my subs are busy enough, but not too busy. I think that it was, completely crazy. I mean, I would say year into COVID, everyone was building. So it was really hard to get. Supply chain was choked, and subcontractors were hard to get. No, we're in a very healthy, steady rebuild, in my opinion. But again, I'm not sure exactly if it will stay like that.
I was curious. So, any idea how many homes? Was it 1,000 homes, 500 homes? How many homes
I
burned?
think we're talking about at about 3,000 homes. I'm
3,000
just not,
homes.
yeah, but I'm
Do
not
you
sure how many of them are like apartment buildings with 50
Sure.
homes in them.
Where
So I'm not really sure
my
what's the.
my question is, because I was kinda curious. This is I'll lay out what my stereotype thought process of what would happen, not knowing LA markets. And you tell me where I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm wrong. So my thought was you have 3,000 homes that burned down. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but that part of California was, it was, I mean, affordable is relative term, but it wasn't like Malibu or some crazy. So a lot of people that had lived there for a long time had homes that they could afford. So let's just say the home is what, 700,000, $1 million? I'm sure there's a range, but an average home there would be what? 2 million. Okay, so the home is
It's
2
Pacific
million.
Palisades. Yeah, I mean
Okay,
it's an
so
expensive
it's
area. It's not cheap.
so it's okay, so it already was okay, so that changes my thought process. So my thought was is like it's 2 million, they burn down. How many can even afford the rebuild? And then they just sell the land. So the people that, because I was curious, like how many people of those 3,000 homes roughly would stay versus how much are like, I'm not going through this. I could sell my home to, whoever, and they could come build a new home because, what, I just want out of here for either two reasons. One, I don't want to go through a rebuild, or number two, the insurance company is gonna, I don't know if they would replace all the way to 2 million. And let's say to rebuild that house today it might be what, 4 million, 3 million? Like, could you afford the jump up of what it costs? I mean, I was just curious if that's
Yeah,
even if that was being considered, or am I way off on
I
that?
think there's several layers to it. So first of all, you got to look at it from like what really happened. I mean, it's not like few homes were burned. That's it. You're talking about banks. You're talking about a school. You're talking about commercial center. So I mean, the rebuild is not only for the home. It's actually a rebuild the entire city in a way.
The community.
This part of the city, the community. So I feel that maybe many of the, I mean, my son goes to school in an area that they have a lot of new students from Malibu and Pacific Palisades because the school was actually burned. So I mean, it's kind of it affected the entire area. So I feel like some people were underinsured, so maybe they want to send the land. Some people were, they had the appropriate insurance. I think that they will rebuild it. And insurances in California, I guess, give you an incentive once it's part of the policy. You get an incentive if you rebuild. So the settlement for taking the money and selling the property versus taking the money and rebuilding, usually you get more with the major companies. I'm not sure exactly with which one or what, but this is part of part of the policies. But I think that some people, as you said, they lived in the neighborhood for 20, 30 years, and they lived in a neighborhood when the average cost of the house was, as you said, 700, 600, 800, and right now the houses are two and two and a half. So will they have the money to rebuild? I think it's a case by case. I think that mostly most people, it's an amazing neighborhood. You get this amazing ocean breeze. I mean, it's and when it will build, it will actually build better. So I think that we'll see. I don't think anyone can really know where it's going to go, and I think that Dusty is completely settled when it comes to all the insurances and all the programs. But few of the people that I know, they want to stay there and they want to rebuild. Let's see
No,
for how
that's
long.
yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad that my guesses were sort of wrong on that. Maybe the last question before we wrap it up is, the Olympics are coming in what, just 2 years? What is it? Was it 2028 or
I think
20?
so. Yeah, yeah. I think
What
2028.
what is do you see a lot of infrastructure changes, or what are you seeing? Does that affect, I mean, does it really affect you as a resident or a builder in the city, or what does that look like?
Not yet. We don't see. I think that when it comes to sports, LA is, in my opinion, one of the best cities in the world. You have so many stadiums. And I mean, everything. I mean, we have two football teams. So there's so much infrastructure here. So I'm not really sure when they're going to start and really rebuild. You don't really see something that is out of the ordinary right now. And I would say that this is probably more on the infrastructure commercial layer of the industry. So usually for us as custom home builders, if there's anything that we're going to see is we're going to see the price of concrete and steel go up.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you're talking about a huge city. It's going to be hard to really see it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I heard something. I'll have to figure out where I read this. It was about a year ago. I was reading, or maybe I was listening to about the Olympics, but I'd heard that the 72 Olympics, I think, was in LA. It was the only Olympics that made money. most Olympics is lose a lot of money because they have to spend the winning city has to put too much infrastructure changes. And they had just talked about how, LA, their history, how they had been successful in 72, number one. And then
And
number two,
84?
oh, I'm sorry, 84. That's the one I mentioned.
84,
Oh,
yeah.
it was 72 and 84? Was
I
it
don't know
twice?
about 72, but I know
Okay, it
about
was
84, yeah.
84. I mean, I must have my numbers mixed up. So 84. But anyway, the point of it is they, you already have such massive infrastructure that there's a lot of stuff that they just maybe have to, update or add a few amenities to. But you just obviously the city is so big and there's so many teams there that, they have a lot of stadiums they can sort
But
of
I think
tap
it's
into.
also culture. It's a matter of culture because actually I saw, and maybe we saw the same thing, but I saw about the Olympics in Athens and in many cities in Europe that actually, yeah, it was a huge loss. But I feel that here in the United States, I mean, the culture around sports is so robust. I mean, it's so like it's really imprinted in the fabric of society in a way that every time you're going to have you're going to build an infrastructure, someone will come and fulfill it. And I think that in the US you can't go wrong when you go to sports. I mean, it's just people, it's really part of the culture. I
Yeah.
think it's just going to do good. But I mean,
Yeah.
by the way, look at Park City, Utah,
Hmm.
and Salt Lake City when there was the Winter Olympics. I mean, it became from Winter Olympics to be, I don't know, kind of a capital of ski in America. So I don't see an issue in LA with kind of not finding the right solution and purpose to whatever they're going to build when it comes to
Yeah, I mean,
sports.
that the article I read was sort of along those lines as well. Well,
Yeah,
I want to respect your time and the audience as well. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I assume you'll be at the Builder Show in Orlando.
yeah. Actually, I'm
Okay.
not sure yet. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to be at the next builder show in Las Vegas for sure because it's 3 hours drive. But
Right.
Orlando, I mean, I'll figure it out.
You have to look at it. We'll have everything in the show notes. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, follow your company, you've got some beautiful work.
Thank
You
you.
know where to go. Thanks again for coming on the Curious Builder podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Today on the podcast, we had Ami Harari on from LA Build Corp, and we had a great conversation. I love Ami's background and really the organization, but what really comes out in the interview is just his passion and really his work ethic. And you can see it through his company as well as the homes that he builds. Without further ado, here's the LA Build Company.